Hey guys, it's Margaret. Today, I'm gonna show all of you Bujo rookies how to get started, or if you've run out of pages in your bullet journal, I'm gonna show you how to start a new one. So now, for anyone who doesn't know what a Bujo is, short for bullet journal, I'm gonna explain what it is. A bullet journal is basically a customized planner that you've started from scratch. So you make the calendar, you put all of your appointments, reminders, dates, any information that you would normally put in a planner is going to go in this bullet journal. You can also kind of think of it as an illustrated planner that you're making from scratch. A bullet journal is a safe place for you to write all of your information while at the same time making beautiful art. So for the rest of the video, I'm gonna show you the supplies that you need and then go through the basic setup of a bullet journal. If you've already been bullet journaling for a while now and you don't need any of these tips, this is still a great video to show you how to move from one journal to another. So let's say you run out of pages in the bullet journal that you've just filled up. I'm gonna show you how to start a new one. For those of you who have never bullet journaled before, I'm gonna show you some supplies. The first thing you need is a notebook. I know that many bullet journalers use dotted notebooks, but you can actually use lined notebooks or blank notebooks. I personally love dotted notebooks because it really helps me make sure everything I'm drawing is aligned, and that's crucial for bullet journalers. A huge part of bullet journaling is drawing calendars, and you don't want uneven lines and spaces for each day of the month. You want a nice even space where you can write all of your information. The next thing you're gonna need are pens and markers. I always use microns in size 05 and 08, which are pretty thin, but those are great for outlining, for doodling, anything where you need to draw thin lines. I also use Faber-Castell markers in black because they come in thicker sizes, like the 1.5 size and the bold size, which are my personal favorites. They're great for faux calligraphy or any doodles or elements where you're gonna need a thicker black marker. For coloring, you can really use a wide variety of markers. I love the Tombow series, and I have tons of them, but they are expensive. So you really only want to get those if you know you want to bullet journal for a while. Otherwise, you can use Crayola Super Tips, which are really nice and a little less expensive. Also, Faber-Castell sells colored markers as well as thicker black markers. So those will run you probably about middle price range between Tombow and microns. Faber-Castells also come in colored markers, and those will run you about mid-price range between Tombow's and Crayola Super Tips. All of them work. There are many more markers out there that will also work. I would suggest you try a couple different markers and figure out which ones work best for you and stick with those. I also always have on hand a pencil, an eraser, and a pencil sharpener. I really love to draw out all of my illustrations and doodles and even my calendars. I like to dot out the calendars beforehand. So I would suggest having all three of those on hand just in case you would like to do the same. The last thing that I would suggest you always have is whiteout. Mistakes are gonna happen. I make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes, we're all human. So you need to make sure you have whiteout in case you need to white out any black marks that don't erase. Now that I've shown you the supplies that you need to start a bullet journal, I'm gonna go through a few spreads that are helpful when starting one. These spreads I tend to see in all bullet journalers' videos, and usually they occur in this order. Do not feel like you have to include every one of these spreads or include them in this order. It's your bullet journal, so you can do whatever you want. But I hope that these spreads at least give you some inspiration and get your ideas rolling so that you can get started on your own bullet journal. The first spread that I always include when starting a new, fresh bullet journal is a key. A key is really important because it's going to denote all of the little symbols that you'll use on every single monthly and weekly spread. And these are really helpful for keeping track of tasks that you've started, completed, or haven't started at all. The first thing I did was write key in a bold script font towards the top of the page in the middle. Then I drew a horizontal line below the word key and added 2 open circles on either end. I am going to label tasks with an open square, events with an open circle, and an open triangle for appointments. A completed task is going to be a completely black square. For tasks that I've started, I'm going to draw a vertical line down the middle of the box. For canceled tasks, I'm going to draw an X through the box. For rescheduled tasks, I'm going to draw a box with an arrow moving to the right. For notes, I'm simply going to draw a bullet point. For important notes, I'm going to use an asterisk. For deadlines, I'm using a mini clock. For expenses, I'm going to use a money sign. And for inspo and ideas, I'm going to use a heart. For any items to the left of this column that occur at home, I'm going to use a yellow marker to highlight the word. For any items that occur at work, I'm going to use a peach marker to highlight the word. For any items that are personal, I'm going to highlight them with a purple marker. And for any errands, I'm going to highlight them with a blue marker. Once I finish drawing each of my symbols and labeling them, I drew another horizontal line about 2 boxes down from the final items and closed off either end with an open circle. The next spread that typically occurs after a key is the index. Now, some bullet journals actually come with a built-in index. I like to make my index fresh from scratch, but you pick the one that's best for you. I started this spread by drawing 2 large boxes that stretched the width of the page on either page. I drew 2 large boxes that start about 6 boxes below the top of the page and drew 1 box on each page. I then drew a horizontal line 2 boxes below the top of the box and drew a vertical line 4 boxes from the left side of each box. I colored in the top horizontal boxes with a different color and labeled the smaller box with page number and the larger box with description. I labeled each of the charts with the word index in a bold script font above both boxes. And to use this page, every time you start a new spread, you're going to write the page number and a description of the page to the right of the page number. One thing I like to do for each item in the index is to highlight the row with a different marker every time so that you can read each one very easily. Typically, the next spread that you're going to see after the index is going to be 1 page for the at-a-glance calendar and another page for smaller details that you can write for each month of the year. We're gonna start with the at-a-glance calendar on the left. So I drew 12 horizontal bars alternating colors. I wrote the initial for each day of the week in the horizontal bars and then labeled each horizontal bar with an abbreviation for the month and added dashes to the left and right side of the abbreviation. I then filled in the calendar for each month with the numbers of the day of the month. I finished off this page by writing the word calendar at the top of the page. Moving on to our yearly setup, I drew 12 short vertical lines about 4 boxes tall and 2 boxes apart. I finished each of the lines with black dots on either end. I then wrote the number for each month and the abbreviation for each month below the number. I drew horizontal lines with different colors to the right of each vertical line, and that's where I will write events, appointments, reminders that I have for each month of the year. I then wrote events in a bold script font at the top of the page to finish this page off. Okay, those spreads were just the beginning spreads that you'll see at the start of every new bullet journal. The last few spreads I just showed you are great for the beginning of a new notebook, and you will always see bullet journalers use those exact spreads at the beginning of any new bullet journal setup. Now I'm going to move into spreads that you will use to break down each month into smaller sections so that you can write more detailed events or tasks or whatever information you have for each day of the month. These setups always start with an opener. So for every month, you will always have one page that announces what month you're in. That's the opener. And the opener is great because you can get super creative. The only information that's usually gonna be on your opener is the name of the month, which leaves tons of space for you to get creative. That is my favorite part of any opener. I'm gonna show you a really basic opening spread, but feel free to get as creative as you want. I first wrote January in a big, bold script font in the center of the page. I then took 3 different colors and drew horizontal lines all the way across the spread, alternating colors and making sure not to overlap with the word January. Every spread that normally follows your opener will be your monthly spread. So that's going to be a big picture view of the month. It's going to allow you to put events like vacation and any other appointments or long-term moments that you can't really include in any particular week because potentially they overlap with several weeks. The first thing I did was draw 31 boxes for each day of the month. I made each box about 7 boxes wide and 6 boxes tall. I then gave each box a highlight alternating colors from day to day. I labeled each box 1 through 31 with small numbers in the center of the highlight. After that, I labeled each column with the abbreviation for each day of the week using a script font. I then labeled this spread with the word January at the bottom corner in a bold script font. On your monthly spread, it's really important that you give each day of the month a space where you can write information. That's really the only requirement for your monthly spreads. Now, moving on to the next type of spread that I'm going to show you, your weekly. Your weekly spread is going to be an even smaller picture view of the month. So you're going to only include 7 days of the week, which gives you lots of space to write down super specific details, notes, goals, anything else you want to write for each day of the week. First, I drew 6 boxes for each day of the week, making them about 9 boxes wide and 26 boxes tall. Saturday and Sunday I combined into one box since that's the weekend, but you don't have to do that on every weekly spread. In fact, most of the time I actually don't combine them, but it made more sense for this layout to combine them so that I have more space for each day. I gave each box a highlight alternating colors at the top of the box, and then I labeled each box with the day of the week. I added the number of the day of the week in the bottom corner. I then made 6 more boxes, but only drew the corners below each of the boxes where I wrote the predicted weather for each day. You don't have to include the weather in your weekly spreads. Most of the time I don't include it, but sometimes it's fun to include little elements that you don't include in all of your weekly spreads, especially when you're starting a new journal. I highlighted the sides of the boxes the same color as the highlight in the large box above it, and made one last box in the top right corner of the right page that was about 5 boxes tall and 19 boxes wide. I labeled this box special notes by writing it vertically to the left of the box, and then drew several bars alternating colors with the same colors I used for the highlights. I then labeled this weekly spread January 1 through 7 at the top left of the spread. This is only one out of infinite number of ways you can set up a weekly, monthly, or opening spread, but this will give you the basics so that you know where to start. The last 2 spreads I'm going to show you are what most bullet journalers call trackers. There are so many different things that you can track, but the 2 that are the most common in bullet journaling are the mood tracker and the habit tracker. The first tracker I'm going to show you is a mood tracker. For each day of the month, you're going to record how you were feeling that day, and then at the end of the month, you'll have a big picture view of how you were feeling overall for the entire month. This will be really important because it will show you how different aspects of your life are affecting your mood and whether or not you need to change those. The easiest way to set up a mood tracker is to pick a symbol for each of the days. There are an endless amount of symbols and ways to represent each day of the month. I am going to keep it simple and use octagons. I drew 31 octagons and labeled each 1 through 31. I made a key above the octagons using 6 different colors. I labeled each color with a different emotion and labeled the entire page mood tracker. To use this spread, you're basically going to find the emotion that you're feeling for that particular day and color in the octagon. Habit trackers are similar to mood trackers, but this time they're going to record the habits that you're doing instead of the mood that you're feeling throughout the day. Habit trackers are also really important because they can track habits that you're doing well and you want to keep doing, as well as bad habits that you're trying to kick. I drew 4 boxes that were about 26 boxes wide and 6 boxes tall and made up of 2 by 2 boxes. I drew a vertical line 2 boxes from the left of each box. I only included 31 of the 2 by 2 boxes since that's how many days are in January. I slightly skewed the position of each box just to make the page more interesting. In that colored box, I'm going to label each of the mini calendars with a habit. I wrote habit tracker at the top of the page in a bold script font. To use this habit tracker, find the habit that you practiced and color in the number of the day of the week that you practiced that habit. Again, habit trackers can be set up any way, but a crucial part of them are mini calendars. There's not a lot of ways that you can set up a habit tracker and track different habits without including these mini calendars. The last group of spreads that I'm going to show you are called collections. So I've shown you the opener, monthly, and weekly spreads that are most common in every monthly setup. I've also shown you 2 sets of trackers. Now I'm going to show you collections. collections are for anything that doesn't really fit into the other categories. So if you want to track your book list or your movie list, or simply draw some doodles for things you need to pack for a trip, all of those are considered collections. Any collection of items is going to fit under this category. I'm gonna walk you through some of my previous collection spreads that I've done throughout my bullet journaling experience. The first one I'm gonna start with is a things to do ultimate list. It's where you can basically write anything and everything you wanna do, and it's separated into different categories like food, music, and miscellaneous. For this spread, I actually cut up several different pages to make a binder-like experience while you're flipping through your bullet journal. This really helps because now I can categorize all of my different ideas and bucket list items that I want to experience into food, into sports, into music, into miscellaneous, and any other categories that I want in this spread. The next spread I want to show you is a book list. So it's going to include all of the books that I want to read, and it's also going to include little boxes to the left of each book name so that once I've completed them, I can color them in. Similar to the book list is a movie list. I always include a movie list because there are so many different movies out that I want to see. So once I finish watching them in theaters or at home, I can cross them off the list, just like I did the books on my book list. The last collection spread I'm going to show you guys is a mixtape list. It's going to feature a list of all the songs I listen to throughout the month. I love lists like this because I can then go back later, several months from the current month and look back at all the songs that I love that month. And it'll bring back great moments of nostalgia, and I'll remember where I was when I first heard that song, which is one of my greatest feelings. These are only 4 examples of so many different collection ideas that you guys can do. So take this as a starting point and you can just build off of this in so many different ways. It's never too late to start bullet journaling, or if you've finished a bullet journal and you've been kind of twiddling your thumbs about starting a new one, now is the time. I really hope this video left you inspired to start bullet journaling if you've never tried before, or start a fresh new bullet journal if you've run out of pages in your old one. Hopefully, for those who have never tried bullet journaling before, you'll try it and love it and find a new hobby for life. But before you get started, make sure you subscribe to 17's YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on any of our future bullet journaling tips and tricks. See you next week.